So Isaiah 14, again, one preparing to sail and about to voyage over ravaging waves, calls upon a piece of wood more fragile than the ship which carries him. For it was desire for gain that planned that vessel, and the wisdom of the craftsman who built it. But it is your providence, O Father, that steers its course, because you have given it a path in the sea, and a safe way through the waves, showing that you can save from every danger, so that even if a man lacks skill, he may be put to sea. So idolatry offends the order of creation. It misuses things that can lead us away from God. It's the misuse of things. So this kind of ties in what we were talking about earlier. It is your will that works of your wisdom should not be without effect. Therefore, men trust their lives even to the smallest piece of wood, and passing through the billows on a raft, they come safely to land. Or if you're in a plane, you're in a little tin can up in the air. For even in the beginning, when arrogant giants were perishing, the hope of the world took refuge on a raft, talking about Noah's Ark, and guided by your hand left to the world the seed of a new generation. For blessed is the wood by which righteousness comes. And so this has often been thought about as the cross of Christ. For blessed is the wood by which the righteousness comes. Also the ark, Noah's Ark. That was an act of mercy too. He allowed them 100 years to turn away from their sin and go on the ark, but only 8 people were saved. But the idol made with hands is accursed, and so is he who made it, because he did the work, and the perishable thing was named to God. So they named this, they made a boat, and they had some leftover wood, and then they said, I'll make a god out of this. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but that's what they did. And in the same way, we may say, well, I'm glad I'm not like them. But what do you put above God in your own life? Is there a pursuit of, people pursue all kinds of things. They pursue riches, fame, popularity, whatever, name it, put it in there. The people pursue all these other things and they place it ahead of God, their own comfort. For equally hateful to God are the ungodly man and his ungodliness. For what was done will be punished together with him who did it. Do you want to read for a while? I know, it's in my throat.
Therefore, there will be a visitation also upon the heathen idols, because though part of what God created, they became an abomination and became traps for the souls of men and a snare to the feet of the foolish. For the idea of making idols was the beginning of fornication, and the invention of them was the corruption of life. For neither have they existed from the beginning, nor will they exist forever. For through the vanity of men they entered the world, and therefore their speedy end has been planned. For a father, consumed with grief at an ultimate untimely bereavement, made an image of his child who had been suddenly taken from him, and he now honored as a god what was once a dead human being, and handed on to his dependents secret rites and initiations. Then the ungodly custom, grown strong with time, was kept as a law, and at the command of monarchs graven images were worshipped. When men could not honor monarchs in their presence, since they lived at a distance, they imagined their appearance far away, and made a visible image of the king whom they honored, so that by their zeal they might flatter the absent one as though present.
Okay, so I think kind of summarizing this is this idolatry coming from 3 different sources. They have a desire to flatter the rulers, a grief over someone who died, and then ambition and vanity. And so these good things can be spiritually dangerous if we turn them into an idol. And I think that's important, is that even the grief of a child, they kind of, they make a graven image, and then they say, well, they're a god. That's what they were doing in the past. But also a desire to flatter rulers like Pharaoh, Pharaoh was they would make an image of Pharaoh and say, well, he's a god, we have to worship him as a god. And then if you didn't bow down to him, then you would perish. And so he's kind of pointing out these are the different ways where you see the three sources of idolatry, at least, that we're kind of covering here. We can go on a little while.
Then the ambition of the craftsmen impelled even those who did not know the king to intensify their worship. For he, perhaps wishing to please his ruler, skillfully forced the likeness to take more beautiful form. And the multitude, attracted by the charm of his work, now regarded as an object of worship the one whom shortly before they had honored as a man. And this became a hidden trap for mankind, because men, in bondage to misfortune or to royal authority, bestowed on objects of stone or wood the name that ought not to be shared. Afterward, it was not enough for them to err about the knowledge of God, but they live in great strife due to ignorance, and they shall call such great evils peace. For whether they kill children in their initiations, or celebrate secret mysteries, or hold frenzied revels with strange customs, they no longer keep either their lives or their marriages pure, but they either treacherously kill one another or grieve one another by adultery. And all is a raging riot of blood and murder, theft and deceit, corruption, faithfulness, tumult, perjury, confusion over what is good, forgetfulness of favors, pollutions of souls, sex perversion, disorder in marriage, adultery and debauchery.
Okay, hold on. So these are some of the consequences of idolatry. And so we might as well end with that cheery note. It's like, so yeah, it leads to like a moral collapse. And one of the points I want to mention here is that you have this child sacrifice.
Yeah. Abortion.
And yeah, we see it in the modern times with abortion, but that's typically, if you think about it, it's if somebody's getting an abortion, they want to have sex without consequences, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's no responsibility. You can go and have sex. It's just another form of birth control. Also, you want to have, if you have a child, it's an obligation, right? So you want to have no responsibility for your actions. And so I think that's one of the things they're pointing out. And so they have, and all throughout human history, demon worship has been associated with child sacrifice. And so this is just another form of it that we have now. And actually, it's on the grandest scale ever. And so we have the grandest scale of child sacrifice we've ever had in human history, because probably, I don't know if it's a third or it's probably 2/3 of all, children are being either aborted or contraceptive away. And so, we may think, and I know, and I mentioned this once before, but when the first time I read Revelation, I didn't understand about the 2/3, it was talking about 2/3 would be destroyed. And I was praying, I was upstairs, and it just kind of came to me that maybe the 2/3 are abortion, because that's how many died. If you think about the one-child policy that they had in China, if you think about all the abortions worldwide, you're talking about 1.3 billion people aborting most of their children. You're talking about most even Catholics, most of them having contraception, using the pill, doing, chemical abortion, regular abortions. And so this isn't the way God wanted it, right? So that's, as a society, this is what we're doing. And so we have to, there will be Isaiah's calling it out for what it is. And he's saying that if you go down this path, it leads to all these moral problems, all these problems in families, marriage, murder, theft, loss of justice, truth. And so it's kind of the consequences of putting something ahead of God.